Dominations, we do have a formal connection because you are one of the 3 joint coordinators of LIPES Intercontinental, and so am I. So in that context, we do have a very formal connection. It's good that you are able to talk about the food policy councils, because I think that this could be one of the elements moving forward in terms of our alliances. If I turn now to Nelson. Nelson, you are leading the global platform for the right to the city. And URGENCI has worked with the global platform for the right to the city over quite a number of years, really, as has LIPES. We have, as URGENCI, really been trying to work on the food sovereignty dimension. So what can you say about the work that we have been doing together?
Yes, thank you, Judith. Thank you for this opportunity to be together in this session with the colleagues from URGENCI and other organizations, namely from FIAM. So the Global Platform, The Right to the City, is working for 7 years in the perspective, the dissemination about the vision, the right to the city, to build, the cities with more sustainability, with more justice, social inclusion. And in the vision, the platform, the one important component, the right to the city, is exactly social economy. Is a city with a social economy, where exactly are the main topics. Work for HIPPIS and FIAM, related the food security, and also solidarity economy. And then we have working together, with these organizations, even other organizations like WIGO, Cities Alliance, UCLG, with this topic, the components, the right to the city, the city with social economy, diversity, including recognition, especially the rights of the informal workers in the cities, in the urban space. And we are having some initiatives. I remember the last was in the high-level panel this year, about the SDGs in July. The high-level panel happening every year, in New York, to make a balanced discussion about the compromise about SDGs. And then we have, one special session to bring this issue, for this high global panel. And this was some kind of the activity, we are doing together in the perspective of the advocacy. We also, we have some initiatives for the capacity building. In this moment, I share here in the chat, and we have for tomorrow one declaration about the right to the city, because it will be the World Day of the City tomorrow, launched by UN Habitat. And then once the important topics, we are raising in this moment regarding the situation we have in the world, the pandemic, the COVID-19, we have one special documents about the right to the city impact of COVID-19, and we are raising, in special some recommendations for we work together in the perspective, the components that right to the city. One is exactly, about the social economy.
Thank you so much, Nelson. if you give us the link, we can do something there. Antonio and Javier, you are both here representing Maela. We have invited Maela to participate in our 2 last conferences, both in China and in Thessaloniki. And we have worked together and continue to work together within the IPC, but not necessarily directly, although there are indirect links in Latin America. So what can you say about what we have been doing? And then we will look at how we can take it forward in the second part of this session. So I don't know whether it's Antonio or Javier who is going to speak.
Gracias, Judith. Bueno, un gusto estar el día de hoy con todas ustedes y creo que es importante, bueno, recalcar eso, ¿no? Que ya hemos estado trabajando bastante tiempo juntos, las organizaciones, los movimientos, y más que trabajo, bueno, es una lucha la que estamos haciendo, ¿no? Entonces, me parece que en estas luchas, porque nosotros como movimiento agroecológico, nuestro quehacer lo marcan realmente los territorios, las comunidades, las organizaciones locales, que están en plena lucha por defender derechos de la naturaleza, por defender los derechos humanos y por también así defender estas formas de vida, estas formas armónicas de alimentarnos y de producir nuestros propios alimentos. Y estas luchas pasan a este plano internacional, donde hemos trabajado en conjunto con plataformas tan grandes como la de URGENCI, ¿no? Hemos estado pues haciendo la defensa, sobre todo en el Comité de Seguridad Alimentaria Mundial, por una inclusión de nuestras demandas en los territorios, de poder hacer valer nuestros derechos, tanto como pueblos indígenas, como mujeres, como campesinos. Y esto se hace en este contexto, digamos, colectivo, ¿no? De las diferentes plataformas. Y a través de mecanismos como el de la sociedad civil, donde también pues, nos aglutinamos para poder dialogar y construir propuestas fuertes que vayan a todo el mundo, ¿no? Y que puedan generar realmente una fuerza para las discusiones con gobiernos de Naciones Unidas. También trabajamos en conjunto con los movimientos sociales, indígenas y campesinos en los que estamos con URGENCI, como el Comité Internacional de Planificación por la Soberanía Alimentaria, ¿no? Esta plataforma de los movimientos que mantiene su autonomía, esta autonomía que nos da la fuerza para crear nuestras propias demandas y nuestras propias rutas de lucha para poder, pues, así hacer valer la soberanía alimentaria y también hacer valer, en todo caso, la economía que tanto nosotros estamos tratando de cambiar, ¿no? Algunos hablamos de economía comunitaria, también economía social y solidaria, pero es estos principios que nos rigen los que marcan esta ruta de una economía diferente a la que está predominando. Me parece que en estas líneas un poco más fuerte hemos estado trabajando con URGENCI, pero si es posible también le daría un par de minutos a Javier, si él quiere decir otras palabritas, ¿verdad? Agradecería.
Gracias, Antonio. Muy buenos días para todos, para todas. Agradecer por la invitación a este espacio. Anteriormente ya habíamos tenido la oportunidad de participar en 2 asambleas globales de URGENCI y pues para Maela es muy importante tener este acercamiento y estar trabajando conjuntamente, como lo decía Antonio, en espacios internacionales. Y desde Maela en América Latina y el Caribe, pues venimos desarrollando una propuesta amplia de socialización y de potenciar la agroecología en nuestros territorios. Eso nos conlleva a tener toda una estrategia frente a esto que tiene que ver con el tema de educación, de formación política, de trabajar muy fuerte el tema de la economía social y solidaria en los mercados locales, como también la participación en estos espacios internacionales donde se juntan fuerzas y se y se logra hacer una mayor incidencia. En ese sentido, Maela está abierta a las posibilidades de generar estas alianzas, de aunar esas fuerzas y lograr construir y avanzar en nuestros propósitos frente al tema de la alimentación, de la soberanía alimentaria y de poder hacer un aporte para el tema en los sistemas agroalimentarios que a veces se ponen en peligro por las grandes corporaciones y que pues estando desde los movimientos sociales unificados pues podemos hacer una mayor defensa de nuestros territorios y de nuestra alimentación. Entonces, para no alargarnos mucho más, saben que cuentan con nosotros, que aquí estamos para seguir fortaleciendo nuestras relaciones y ya llegará el momento que nos podamos sentar y planificar en qué forma podemos seguir adelante haciendo este trabajo y consolidando una alianza entre las dos organizaciones. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much, Javier. That is really important. Zoe, you are part of TNI, which is a major player in the food sovereignty field. We're working together at least on one project and maybe more, in fact. Can you tell us what we have been doing together and share a little bit about it, please?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the invitation to be here. It's a pleasure. And I hesitate to say what all TNI has been doing with urgency because it involves many people and projects and years of alliance and learning from each other. So I think I will focus on what I have been doing recently because I think it also adds a new element to the conversation thus far today. Which is working specifically on building out our networks and understanding of the issues from a territorial food system perspective in the interest of building food sovereignty, but what is the role of fishers and fisheries in that context? And so specifically, we've been working on mapping and understanding community-supported fisheries or initiatives to increase direct sales and other fisher innovations in Europe with other partners from the US, from Local Catch, and from France as well, from Plein Mer. So that project has been about understanding the context that fishers are, some of the threats and opportunities that they're facing, whether that's environmental from other large actors, legal policy challenges, etc. Actually, just a couple of days ago, we published a report on industrial fishing and some of the threats to small-scale fishers in Europe. And then the mapping work is also really politically important, I think, because it helps lay the basis for building a stronger network of actors working on a kind of transformation of and support for the type of fishing that can contribute to food sovereignty and maintain regenerative, or at least not incredibly damaging, relations with our marine environment and inland waters. And then there's been a really interesting training and awareness building component in the work that Urgency, I think, has been really helping us understand how we can weave in some of these educational tools and training opportunities into the work that we're doing around these issues. So that's also been quite a cool component of some of this work on fisheries. And yeah, so other projects and overlaps have been around territorial food systems more in land-based work, as well as international spaces in IPC over the years. But from my personal experience, maybe I'll stop there and just add, that's kind of the most recent and active space where I've been overlapping with Urgency, and hopefully our continued fundraising efforts and visions to build a network to support local small-scale fisheries in Europe will continue and can broaden the network in the coming years. So thanks.
Thanks, Zoe. Guilherme, at a different level, Urgency has a memorandum of understanding with the FAO. And we have been doing lots of things together really over the last 4 years, from using the tools for evaluating agroecology in China very recently, the TAPE tool, to working on many other aspects. And obviously, as we've already said, and as Nelson said too, and others have mentioned, the political and social and economic climate has never been more difficult, including working with allies like you within the institutions. So how do you see the work that we have been doing together?
Thanks, Judith. Thanks for the invitation. It's an honor to be here with you. Bom dia, meus conterrâneos e conterrâneas que estão em Manaus. Queria estar aí com vocês. Well, Judith, yeah, as you said, we've been doing a lot of things in the last years. I would like maybe to highlight 2 or 3 key aspects, very relevant ones in my opinion. I think the first one, some of the colleagues already mentioned, but the work that we've been doing with the International Planning Community on food sovereignty. URGENCI is one of the 12 or 13 organizations that are part of this big alliance of social movements representing different constituencies. And this work from the IPC has been crucial to open the space in FAO for civil society organizations to participate in the dialogues and to discuss the policies that were being shaped, and also to create mechanisms and to facilitate engagement of civil society organizations in the different regions and at the global level. So I think this is a big component that connects with the development of several international guidelines. We have some examples, the guidelines on the right to food, the voluntary guidelines for responsible governance of tenure and natural resources, small-scale fisheries guidance, so on and so forth. And then how to bring and to translate this to local realities, and how to advocate that the local needs were reflected in this international guidance. So I think this is a huge and very important component of URGENCI works that maybe who just looks into the more specific expertise of URGENCI with the community supported agriculture, the local solidarity partnership, doesn't know this level of work of URGENCI also at the global level. I think another very interesting and exciting work that we've done was in the Mediterranean region, where URGENCI mapped the different CSAs, local solidarity-based partnerships on agroecology, promoted exchanges in the Mediterranean regions, experiences from, let's say, the Near East, from the Mediterranean area of Europe, and that also followed up with broader dialogues and discussions inside URGENCI that led to a beautiful learning framework on local solidarity-based partnerships for agroecology, organizing, systematizing these experiences and giving some tips on how to go forward with it. And the third point that I would like to highlight is exactly the work on agroecology, right? The participation, the contributions of URGENCI were crucial to help to build the concept of agroecology and to bring agroecology into FAO program of work. We had a huge process, including dialogues in the regions and several debates also at the global level. And then, let's say, the main outcome was an initiative, scaling up agroecology initiative, trying to bring other UN agencies to work with agroecology. and this methodology that Judith mentioned to try to gather evidence on agroecology in order to support decision making. So yeah, I would stay with this key outcomes, I think, from our joint work. And as you said, I think we have, it's a tough context, but I think we also have great opportunities for the future. Over.
I agree, Guillermo, that we do have opportunities, and it's identifying them and taking them forward that is really important. I'd like to turn now briefly to somebody some of you know, who is Kazembe Balagan from New York. Kazembe represents the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, and it is thanks to him that we have been able to have some resources to support a lot of the work that it has taken to get this whole show of our symposium on the road, specifically in terms of organizing 34 interpreters and having interpretation into 5 different languages on a voluntary basis, which is an amazing feat. So thank you, Coati, for organizing that. But Kazembe, we have not worked deeply or at great length together. We did work together through the Right to the City in New York as well on food sovereignty aspects, and on a workshop side event that we held, as well as some field events jointly on the questions of food sovereignty in the city. So how do you see the work that we have done to date? And thank you for being with us.
Thank you for the wonderful invitation and the wonderful introduction, Judith. I want to send my love and solidarity to all the participants of this wonderful conference. It is truly remarkable in regards to what you have done so far and what you will be doing in the future. Once again, my name is Kazembe Balagun. I am a project manager with the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung, based in New York. Right now, I'm calling you from unceded Native American territory in South Carolina, where I'm helping to take care of my dad. This area of the United States has a long history of autonomous sovereignty for African Americans, some long history of continuing connection, despite the transatlantic slave trade, to traditions of culinary traditions, and language traditions, or traditions of community. And it's wonderful to be a part of this particular community, to think about and to reflect on the importance of food sovereignty, autonomy, and the resistance to corporate influence. I don't have much to add, much more to the conversation, except that one is that these conferences are indeed really important in terms of maintaining a visible sign of solidarity. I think that it's something that during the COVID-19 crisis, having virtual gatherings, even virtual gatherings, indicate the need for us to remind ourselves that we're not in this by ourselves. To that effect, also, I would also want to point out to the and put a plug in for a publication that our office, along with 7 other offices of our network, produced called Crash Barriers, looking at the issues around food sovereignty in the post-COVID-19 moment. I'll be dropping a link to that book. It's a free PDF, but also there was a conference that was held during the UN Food Summit, that had a number of different activists, academics, and folks thinking through these major issues around food sovereignty, and really trying to challenge, the corporate influence of within the United Nations around issues around food. Also challenging issues such as agri in Africa. I'm going to drop those links down into the chat right now. Yeah, I want to say thank you so much. This has been wonderful to listen to see all of your wonderful faces, and also to continue the work between our organization and Urgency, which I think is super important, is really critical at this moment, right, this time right now, because solidarity is what we need right now. And we know we do need to have a field of working together. So thank you so much for your brilliant work, Judith, and thank you to the team for providing the platform for all of us.
Thank you so much, Kaz, for that contribution. Looking forward now, because we're approximately halfway through this session. Unfortunately, we are missing two key people who were supposed to speak. One is Perla from the Alianza in South America, who represents the Via Campesina, who have been present in many, if not most of our sessions in one way, shape or form. I don't know whether she was unable to connect. And also Stefano Mori from IPC, the International Planning Committee for Food Sovereignty, which is the autonomous space where we as social movements work together, strategize together and move forward together. And I will come back to that in the second part of what we can and will do together in the next years. Maybe we can take a board. Sam has set up a whiteboard for us, I believe, and we can look to the future and say, what can we do together in the next 3 years? What can we dream of doing together in the next 3 years? What can we hope to do together in the next 3 years? And maybe Sam, you can help explain this, because I'm absolutely hopeless and rely on people who are more technological than me. How do we get the Post-its? How do we write on them? How do we use this tool? And we can do this in different languages and sort through it after the event, because strengthening our alliances is going to be a really important thing. So what do we want to do? What can we do? How can we do it together in the next 3 years? I say 3 years because urgency symposiums are every 3 years. And we're building our strategic vision right now for the 3 years to come. So Sam, can you explain how people can just take Post-its and write their ideas on them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's quite simple. If you look at the board, I just put the link in the chat. So if you click on the link, you'll be able to head to the board, and then to add a note, you see this, you can see on the screen, I'm hovering over the sticky note, and you'll have the opportunity to change the color if you wish, and then write a note. And that will simply just add it to the board. So as Judith mentioned, we can use different languages, we can use different colors. I'm not sure how much organization we're really looking for here, but maybe just a free form sort of discussion. And as Judith mentioned, we can sort of sort things out at the end with languages and maybe draw some themes. So does everyone have access?
Also, I would like to mention, I was hoping that Perla could do this, but I will actually put it on the table before we work on this. That in the last session, we launched the Nyeleni Global Forum with a video as the social movement's response to the global situation today. It is our process. We will be a part of it. So we can also see how our ideas can link to that. They can include some ideas for fundraising. They can include ideas for projects that can contribute to it. And it's really over to you as our allies to see what you feel you would like to do with urgency, what you can dream of doing with urgency, imagine doing with urgency. And I'm just going to sit back and let you do the writing.
A quick update. I think that it's now available to everyone.
Yeah, it says that the authorizations have been granted.
Okay.
So help yourself to Post-its and put your ideas up there so we've something to build on. How do we do this, Sam? Because nobody seems to be writing and I don't know where to get the Post-its. Can you guide people through this?
Sure, of course. So I changed permissions.
Sam, you may need to reshare. I don't know if that creates a different link, but I'm still getting the request access.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so
Okay, so maybe what we can do is people can give their ideas orally and you can write them down.
I put the new link in the chat. If we could try that new link, the most recent link in the chat, that should be.
Still asking to request.
Still, huh?
Yeah.
I apologize for this.
It's okay, we can do it orally and you guys will just have to take notes, maybe. I don't know how else to do it. I don't want to lose the valuable time we have together.
Yeah, why don't we just have a conversation and then I can simply add Post-its to the board as they're tossed out.
Okay, I'm not going to designate people. I think people just jump in like a fishbowl, a virtual fishbowl.
Judith, will you reshare the question one more time?
Okay, what can we do together for the next 3 years? You know, we don't all have to do the same things together. And the second question is, how will this fit into the Nyeleni Global Forum, which we can ask afterwards. But first of all, what can we think of doing together in the next 3 years? And, you know, it can be wild ideas, very specific ideas, very broad ideas, but I leave it up to you because it can't come from me.
May I jump in, maybe, Judith?
Yeah, please.
Guys.
Please, please.
Okay, I think, as you said, we have a tough environment, right? A tough context, but at the same time with some opportunities. There is a growing interest on, or at least a narrative on how we need to transform food systems. And I think the experiences that URGENCI brings from its members are really important to help to think on how to transform and to structure sustainable, resilient food systems. So and at the same time, we are working in FAO now. My unit is responsible to support the implementation of the United Nations Decade on Family Farming. One big component is how to provide technical support to members countries on how to create a positive enabling environment for peasants, for family farmers. And I think it could be very interesting to have systematization of which are the key features, let's say, in legal frameworks that could stimulate CSAs, local solidarity partnerships, which kind of policies can strengthen, promote. This could be very helpful, in my opinion, to bring concrete elements, ideas for the member countries on the policy level, how they can strengthen this area. I think we can do a lot on capacity development, on bringing very interesting educational proposals, methodologies that URGENCI has, and we can also offer the methodologies and tools that we've been developing in the past years. So working together on this could be interesting. We are working a lot on developing a better knowledge on public policies that could be useful for URGENCI members, on how to design, how to develop capacities to engage with governments on public policies, understand how it's shaped, how to influence. And as you know, we just started this discussion, but also to bring better knowledge to the organizations on, let's say, their options in order to shape, to develop strategies for a more inclusive, to have a more inclusive market environment for family farmers and peasants. So looking into the possible models, bringing information, intelligence about market requirements, giving options for the organizations to develop their own strategies in an autonomous way on how to relate with markets. These 3 ideas, I think, are enough for 3 years. Maybe.
Maybe I can jump in. I was inspired now to follow up on what Guy shared, and I think I actually really like his. Well, I guess I should also preface with it. It's important for us, I think, especially as technical support organizations, to also hear also from URGENCI where you see where you want to go and how we can fit your vision. But as I see you writing some things, Judith, I have some maybe in knowing URGENCI already have some ideas of things we could do together and just maybe taking one step further. But I also like this idea of looking at legal frameworks, because it really has a concrete advocacy component. Because I think something I've noticed a big change since the last GA of URGENCI, where I remember the legal framework question was not as strong, and I think that's changing now in how to interact with public policy. And I think it's a really interesting question. And I think for FIAN, or just like maybe the broader human rights community and questions around human rights, which maybe in this moment are more important than ever, because they're definitely not something very sexy for the bigger world, because the scope of the degree of violation is so strong at the moment. Especially COVID has revealed this very clearly, how vulnerable a lot of our systems are, not just food but health and social structures. That looking at how not only like looking at legal frameworks to stimulate CSA, but again, what are the legal frameworks that can support solidarity partnerships to sort of, I think I said this in the beginning, but to expand more to the social inclusion questions and equity questions. I think, and then also stimulating some of those debates in the Nilani process could be interesting, but also in some of the regional spaces that we're working in, and in spaces where maybe these debates are not happening yet. I think URGENCI is in an interesting position to talk about some of those things. I know some of the members are also working on that. And then concretely with the work we are already doing together to try to build tools to sort of monitor some of these questions, at least in Europe. But of course, we can always scale out. I think it would be great to think about how to work together to concretely implement some of those things and start to move from the knowledge building to the advocacy work together. But of course, one precedes the other, because I think we're all learning a lot from each other and with each other at the moment. But yeah, so that's just first ideas.
Thanks, Emily. I think that's really important. I think the aspects of protecting sociobiodiversity and Indigenous people, as well as traditional communities' rights, also fits in with what Kazembe was saying earlier on. I mean, it's the food sovereignty movement is anchored in people's right to their culturally appropriate food. We do need to build our food systems on that and not on corporate supermarkets that are forcing us to eat uniform, highly processed foods around the world. I think what has come across very strongly in all of the sessions that I've been in this week is really this need to work as joined up movements. And that is where the Nyeleni Forum will play a huge role. But for the Nyeleni Forum to happen, we need to have concrete projects that will fit into it and that we will be able to raise funding for. Zoe, how do you see maybe working more on the fisheries question, taking that forward? And also Javier and Isa, if you want to say something. Javier?
Javier, dale tú primero.
Dale, perfecto. Bueno, un poco lo que en algún momento veníamos planteando ya desde asambleas anteriores era trabajar conjuntamente en América Latina, URGENCI y Maela. En ese sentido, nosotros lo que proponemos es abordar el tema de la educación. Venimos ya haciendo un trabajo desde Maela a nivel continental con una escuela en formación política en agroecología y podríamos mirar conjuntamente cómo podemos potenciar esta parte que es tan importante para nuestras bases sociales. Lo segundo que podríamos trabajar en común acuerdo sería el tema de mercados campesinos y los sistemas participativos de garantía. Esa parte, pues ahora en contexto de pandemia se ha venido potenciando muchísimo en América Latina y el Caribe y ha sido la respuesta también desde los productores y productoras que hacen parte de la base social del Maela como respuesta a la solución del tema alimentario. Entonces, nos parece que es una línea muy importante para trabajar, es una línea que debemos seguir potenciando y que podríamos hacer un esfuerzo para juntar ideas y lograr hacer algún plan de trabajo entre las dos organizaciones. Y tiene que ver también con todo el tema de economía social y solidaria. Entonces, en ese sentido, creo que lo venimos haciendo ya y que sería muy interesante poder hacer una propuesta en común, hacer una propuesta de trabajo en común y pues esa sería como la idea que tendríamos desde Maela. Gracias.
Thank you. Could somebody put that onto one or two post-its, please? Because I think to develop a shared project plan to work on agroecology and specifically on the solidarity economy from producer and consumer points of view in Latin America is something we can do working with Maela. And I think that is a really concrete, positive input. Thank you so much, Javier. Isa, you wanted to come in.
Sí, bueno, lo primero, hola a todas y un placer veros a muchas, que hacía tiempo que no que no nos veíamos. Bueno, quería compartir varias cosas escuchándoos, ¿no? Bueno, algunas se han comentado ya. Yo diría dos cositas, así como a futuro y en los próximos 3 años. Una que yo creo que ya la estamos incorporando en mucho del trabajo que hacemos es el incorporar la mirada interseccional cuando hablamos de sistemas alimentarios, ¿no? O sea, ya estamos hablando de personas más desfavorecidas, ya estamos incorporando perspectivas feministas y esto tiene mucho que ver con mirar a quienes no estamos llegando y también preguntarnos por qué, ¿no? Desde todas las que estamos aquí, o sea, no solo desde URGENCI. ¿Por qué todavía, bueno, tanto a nivel de movimiento como a nivel de políticas, ¿no? Bueno, me parece que es una reflexión también a hacer en distintos niveles, ¿no? Creo que una cuestión, yo ahora me hubiera a cuestiones un poquito más, no sé cómo decir, personales a lo mejor, pero porque en esto que habéis dicho de todo lo que hacemos, habéis hablado mucho bueno, de las cosas que hacemos productivas, pero creo que también hay mucha, no sé cómo decir la palabra, en castellano sería contaminación en nuestros discursos, ¿no? Pero entre nosotras, contaminación de la buena, contagio del bueno. Creo que todas aprendemos de todas las demás, creo que nos vamos impregnando de los discursos de otras. Yo he aprendido muchísimo, por ejemplo, con Antonio y hemos tenido grandes momentos hablando de cosas comunitarias, de qué hablamos cuando hablamos de comunes, de lo comunitario. Si he podido incorporar los derechos humanos ha sido gracias a todo el trabajo con FIAN y creo que tenemos que seguir trabajando y entendiéndonos entre nosotras también como, bueno, pues como igual que hay del campesino a campesina, pues del activista al activista, ¿no? O sea, el aprender un poco entre nosotras. Creo que ahora mismo estamos en un momento, bueno, lo sabemos todas, muy, muy crítico también, ¿no? Como sociedad civil, creo que el visibilizarnos juntas y unidas también va de la mano de esa narrativa que tenga los derechos humanos como pilar, ¿no? Frente a las múltiples partes interesadas y todo este momento que estamos viviendo. Entonces creo que reforzar nuestra narrativa común es algo muy importante. Y para terminar diría que, bueno, viéndoos a todas, que casi lo más prioritario de todo lo que nos toca hacer es encontrarnos y abrazarnos, porque os estaba viendo y Dios mío, qué fiesta nos hemos perdido en Brasil. A ver cuándo la podemos, cuándo la podemos hacer, porque la construcción y el trabajar juntas también es todo lo que pasa cuando salimos de estos espacios, ¿no? Entonces creo que tenemos también como ganas de encontrarnos y de, bueno, apagar un poco el Zoom y volver al contacto físico. Entonces también quiero poner eso de relieve, porque sin eso todo lo demás no existiría. Nada, un beso a todas.
Okay, so let's have a party. Thank you, Isa, as always. I think getting back to embracing each other, hugging each other, seeing each other physically is important, but we must protect each other as well. I think that our work does protect each other to a very large extent. What other things can we look at going forward? Because while we have these huge, big goals, I think that we have some very concrete things here on the board to build together with our allies. Zoe, with the Fishers, how can we take this all a step further, do you think?
Yeah, thanks, Judith. I added a little bit onto the board.
I can't read small print, so I need to hear it. I'm sorry, can you tell us?
Yeah, I think this past year and a half, we've been lucky to be collaborating quite a bit with the local catch network in North America, which I think offers quite a lot of insights and some interesting models for how to move a type of structure to help move fisheries work forward. So I think at least in the immediate steps based on the work we've been doing in Europe, which hopefully can be expanded and connected and cross-pollinated with other initiatives already underway in other parts of the world. But I see a need to strengthen a network of key allies, actors, people engaged in a critical vision of fisheries transformation. And also, it seems like there's a lot of power and wisdom on this call and in the networks that all of us are connected to help bridge fisheries issues with the rest of food system transformation work and food sovereignty movements. So I would say those are, sort of quite laying the foundation for next steps type of consolidating networks is what I see as immediately necessary. And then definitely just echo and also agree with what Isa was saying in terms of intersectionality and making sure and constantly checking and evaluating ourselves and our work to see how we can make it more anti-racist, more anti-patriarchal, more anti-capitalist, figure out who we're not reaching and why, and kind of have that constant critical, constructive conversation going within our organizations and among our allies.
Absolutely. I think that these are really key elements. At the same time, we can't necessarily put those terms into project formulations. But there are ways of doing it. In other words, I think using the gender perspective in the broad sense of the term, because it's not just women, it's the whole gender perspective, I think, that we need to bring into our work. So I think that is something where we do have a lot more work to do. I'm hearing several different things come out of all of this conversation. And yes, Isa, we can have some caipirinha as we're in Brazil, as long as we don't have too many and knock ourselves out completely like I did the first time I went to Brazil. I didn't realize how potent it was. What do you see, Nelson, as moving forward? What can we work on? How can you work with us, or we can work with you to really develop these concepts more in terms of the right to food within the right to the city and food sovereignty within the right to the city? Can we build forward?
Yes, thank you, Judith. Yes, we in this moment now are working on document. We are called the thematic papers, to have strategic documents regarding the components, the right to the city for the perspective, the advocacy, and also capacity build, One is actually our lunch, now is about the right to the city, COVID-19. Yeah, another we have already is about the right to the city and climate change for the perspective of the ambiental justice. We are working with colleagues from Ecuador, one thematic paper about the intersections and connections between rural and area territory. One topic we are exploring very much is exactly about the agriculture sustainable. Now it's one main topic. It's already done in this work with thematic paper, exactly for the perspective of the solidarity economy and also for the food security. This team are working in this perspective, and then we can explore better this document for the advocacy perspective and capacity building regarding right to the city and food security and economy solidarity the next year, for next steps. I think it is the contribution we can do, for this islands for the next steps. This moment I can say this.
Thank you, Nelson. I think that Stefano from IPC is going to try to join us. So if he can be let in when he comes. Okay, so we're moving on to another page because the first page was getting too crowded. Thanks. I think that all of this is starting to build into a picture that will fit into a bigger picture, because we have all these areas where we have people doing advocacy, like the European Union, like the CFS, like the FAO, and through IPC, which is really the central platform through which many of us connect and build these collective strategies. I would also like to ask you, working forward, how do you see the work that we can continue to do on the joined up questions of the pandemic, working differently through our networks, and health, jobs, and the environment? Because it goes beyond just saying we're going to work on agroecology. I think we've had some remarkable testimonies from the MST in Brazil in several of our sessions. And how do we continue to build on the incredible resilience that we have seen in our movements? We've shown how resilient we are. How do we convince the authorities that our resilience needs to be brought forward into policy? Can anybody make any suggestions there? Because I think that is...
Sí.
Yeah, please.
No, estaba pensando un poco al hilo de lo que estás diciendo y de cómo seguir adelante. Para mí hay un tema para trabajar, tiene que ver con lo que he dicho antes de las narrativas, que es que yo creo que una de las cuestiones clave que tenemos que trabajar todas donde nos toque estar es insistir en la necesidad de valorizar la actividad campesina y el ilusionar a las personas jóvenes, niños, niñas, niñas, con ser campesinas y el insistir tanto a nivel político como a nivel social en que es importante ser campesina, porque sin eso no va a haber otra cosa más, ¿no? Y creo que ahora mismo, además de la pandemia, estamos viviendo una escasez de muchos materiales y creo que esto nos va a llevar a ver dos bueno, ya la estamos viendo, haber como dos corrientes, ¿no? Por un lado, una corriente que mire más a lo local y a la sostenibilidad, pero por otro lado también a grandes empresas que intentarán hacerse pasar por falsas soluciones, ¿no? Y creo que ahí tenemos que reunir, bueno, antes lo comentaba alguien, reunir muchos datos del impacto y sobre todo valorizar la narrativa agroecológica y de soberanía alimentaria frente a otras falsas soluciones, ¿no? Y creo que ahí, y pasa por lo que decía de ser campesinas, que puede sonar muy básico, pero creo que yo siempre he dicho que estaremos cambiando de verdad las cosas cuando las familias eduquen a las niñas para ser campesinas de mayores, ¿no? Y lo valoricen como ser doctora o ser arquitecta. Y me parece que es una narrativa que no es menor, o sea, que es algo por lo que tenemos que trabajar también. Así que, bueno, pues ahí lo dejo.
Thank you, Isa. There's a message here. Can you please turn your microphone off, Nelson? Thank you. We also now have Stefano Mori from IPC. And Stefano, what we're trying to do is to build a vision through what we can do together with our different allies and what we can create together in the future. It would be very helpful, I think, if you could perhaps say a few words about the Nyeleni Global Forum moving forward and how we can fit all of this into that framework, please.
Thank you so much, Judith, and sorry for being late today for this workshop. Thank you so much for the invitation. Well, yeah, the Nyeleni process is coming from already a discussion that was developed before the pandemic was starting. So the IPC started the discussion about having a new momentum after the declaration of the Nyeleni of 2007 and the Forum on Agroecology held always in it was held in as well in the Nyeleni Mali in 2015. So there was a need to respond to the corporation capture, but also one of the objectives of this Nyeleni process is to stimulate the organization, the social movements, to participate at the global level and to retake a bit the situation in the hand of the social movement. So the idea is to start a process, as it's called the title, so Nyeleni process. So the idea is that we should not having just a global forum, but a process that would take the needs and the willing of the social movements from the ground. So the idea is to start in next year in January already with regional consultations. So a process will start with regional consultation where everyone can participate in regional meetings, where the idea is to share the concerns about the realization of food sovereignty and the implementation of food sovereignty. So which are the obstacles, which are the difficulties that social movements are dealing with. And also it will be a moment to also enlarge the alliance to climate justice and working justice movement. This is also one of the objectives of the process, to enlarge the alliance, because the IPC analyzed that the corporate capture already arrived in different spaces, and we have to share the concerns and the battle for food sovereignty also with other movements. Of course, as we know very well, the climate change is transversal, and it's really important that we address it in our demands. So the idea is to start with these regional consultations. Then the program should follow with a global steering committee that is still have to be planned, to be realized, let's say. So the steering committee will have the role to resume a bit all the discussion had at the regional consultations. In a third phase, the idea is that the regional consultation will happen again to find some solutions from the concerns and the obstacle had at the regional level, and then the preparation for the global forum. So the idea is that the global forum could happen around March 2023, March or April 2023, but it will be a result of a long process of 1 year. So we are already discussing with the regional secretariats of the IPC, and we are developing different strategy on how to have these gatherings at the regional level, and to also find a way to make visible the process of nearly. So yeah, these are in general terms the process.
Thanks a lot, Stefano. I think it's really important to have that information. I also think that we need to build, and we've said this in an IPC meeting, projects at national, regional, or international level, depending on the subject and the capacity, to fit in with this, and projects that would have funding, because it's not just a big global gathering. It represents all the preoccupations from the bottom up, from the ground up, and trying to work on realizing the objectives of all of those projects, the multiple dimensions from the ground to the international and global level. So I think that we need to do this collectively, which is why I wanted to have this session on alliances. And I can see quite a number of ideas have come out of it. We need to work on those ideas and see how we can flesh them out to be part of this global Nyeleni Forum process. And I'd like to know, quickly going around all of you again, if there are any other ideas that we've missed in the view of the way this has developed, and if you'd like to add anything very quickly, a couple of minutes each. Emily, maybe starting with you as you started the last time.
Well, I don't think there's anything I would like to add. I think from my side, I will be also really curious. I haven't been able to participate as much as I wanted to in some of the sessions this week so far. So I would be really also curious to hear.
Hola, Judy. Qué pena, no encontré la mano para levantar.
Sorry, who is this? Hello, there's somebody.
Javier de Maela, quisiera hacer un aporte.
Yes, please. Can you say something after Emily? Can we just let her speak, finish her sentence, and I will come to you, Javier? Emily, can you just finish what you were
No,
saying?
it wasn't so exciting. So no, probably Javier, I can go. No, I was just saying I'm really looking forward to hearing the outcomes of some of the other discussions you've had as like a bigger urgency collective this week, because I think, yeah, like you and Isa both indicated, I think you're in some process of shifting and sort of building up where you want to go as well. And then we can also keep talking after this, probably, to see how we support urgency, how we support the movement, also towards the Nyeleni process, to see how to, where to go, and also, of course, then how to build that into projects and the projects we already have, and try to use the resources we have already more strategically to fulfill that vision.
Okay, thank you. Javier, please, the floor is yours.
Ok, muchas gracias. Disculpa haber interrumpido, no encontraba cómo pedir la palabra, pero bueno, discúlpame. A ver, con el tema del COVID-19, sobre todo en América Latina y el Caribe, se ha presentado o nos ha dejado un gran problema, que es la expansión de la urbanización. Entonces, con el tema de trabajo desde casa, muchas personas de la ciudad han salido a comprar predios en las zonas rurales donde finalmente son personas que no van a producir, que solamente son fincas de recreo, y esto ha hecho pues de que nuestras comunidades campesinas se sientan en riesgo y se tengan que desplazar. Eso nos conlleva pues a analizar una problemática sobre que no tenemos políticas públicas para el acceso a la tierra. Entonces, si los campesinos, como lo decía Isa, la visibilización del campesino para que no se extinga, si los campesinos no tienen tierra, pues no podrán producir. Entonces sí sería importante abordar el tema de políticas públicas en torno al acceso a la tierra de quienes no la tienen. Gracias.
I think this is a very important point, Javier. There's another dimension to it that I have seen in Ireland, which is people working remotely during the COVID pandemic. People from the capital have moved into the countryside and into the villages and pushed the price of land up so that local people can no longer afford to buy homes or land for farming. And that is something which I think is a global phenomenon, because you have just confirmed it. So some kind of public policies to preserve agricultural land can be linked very directly to the voluntary guidelines for the tenure of land, fisheries and forests, because there is one paragraph in there to protect land from urbanization. And we need to take that aspect maybe and develop it a little further and get policy to cover it. I think that's a really important aspect that needs to be emphasized. What else can we add or recapitulate on that is important here? Does anybody else want to speak? We have 4 minutes left before we wind up.
Judith, will this list be shared from the Jamboard with the group?
Do you mean the list of participants, or do you mean?
I mean the list of ideas.
The list of ideas will certainly be brought forward to our General Assembly.
Okay.
And we can also share it, yeah. And the whole session will be on Urgency TV. So you can go back to that. So I think, what are the 3 priorities we should look at? It seems to me that public policies in terms of land rights, access to land, and food policies. Food Policy Council seems to be one of the key things that we can bring forward. The second key theme that I heard is working with Maela in Latin America on solidarity economy between producers and consumers as being a key lever, and doing that perhaps within the food sovereignty movement and including REPES as the global social solidarity economy movement. So we can take that as a second priority maybe. And the third one is to protect local communities, be they Black, Brown, Indigenous, and socially excluded, and their right to food, their right to land, and their human rights in a broader sense of the term, in the socio-biodiversity, as well as other aspects. So those to me seem to be the three key aspects that came out of it. I don't know, would anybody else see it differently? In 2 minutes? Did I miss something?
Judith?
Yes.
I'm going to, well, I don't know, I guess it's one more priority to add. And that's, well, given that we have 2 minutes left, we all also know that this is your last days as Urgency president. And given that we're in a session with allies that you've worked closely with, not just in your 10 years president, but since you've entered the food sovereignty movement, maybe not just with us personally, but with all of us in our organizations and countless other organizations. I just wanted to say, and I think I'm speaking on behalf of everybody here, to say a huge thank you for all the work that you've done, not only lifting up Urgency and all the organizations and members you work with, but I think all of our organizations and all of us personally, and really being such a dedicated advocate in the work that you do. And I think that Urgency has benefited greatly from having you there, as have all of we. And we've learned a lot from you and with you. And of course, I think you're not going anywhere. So I don't think any of us are worried about that. You are, I think workaholic is like a negative term. So I want to say like a dedicated advocate for the CSA and solidarity economy movement and the food sovereignty movement. And we look forward, I think, all of us to keep on trucking. I don't know, with this vision and this work that we discussed today, and keep collaborating with you. So I know that I feel like that's insufficient. I wish we were there to share a drink with you and give you a hug, but I think we can give you all a virtual round of applause and probably a big hug next time we see you. So yeah, thanks to you for everything that you've done and continue to do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. But like you said, I'm not going anywhere. I have made it very clear, I don't want any other titles. I don't feel any need for any titles. And I do want to continue doing some work. I mean, I will no longer be president, which is fine. I'm very happy with that. But I do intend to stick around and continue doing some stuff with everybody, because I don't think you can take the food sovereignty advocate out of the woman. You can take the woman out of some of the responsibility, but you can't take what I fight for and what I've been struggling for so long out of me. So, I won't shut up, I won't go away, I'll still stay actively involved, but I will not be as much in the spotlight, I hope. So thank you for that, Emily. It's embarrassing, it's also very heartwarming.
No need to be embarrassed, and I think it's probably a sentiment we all share. So one more round of applause for Judith.
Now listen, stop. Listen. Sam, can you try and get those 3 priorities off the videotape and put them on Post-its to bring forward maybe, and keep track of all the other ideas so that we can work on them, building our vision going forward.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Listen, far to the people, Kaz. And thank you all so much for your help, for your support, for contributing as allies. in your separate and important ways to working together, because I think we need to stand very closely together in the times we're living in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judith. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.